Yeah, the problem is, though, without purpose, you can't say something's better or worse. Like, you can't say that your quarterback throwing a touchdown is better than your quarterback throwing an interception unless you know what the purpose of the game is.
Right.
Louise Antony, who was an atheist debating William Lane Craig a number of years ago, they were talking about objective morality, and she actually admitted something which hurt her case and helped Craig's case, where she, and I'm paraphrasing, she basically said that any argument I try and give that atheism is true is built on weaker premises than the intuition I have that say torturing babies for fun is wrong. I mean, that the intuition that what you saw in Uganda was wrong is so strong that it would take some Herculean evidence to overturn it, to say that atheism was true is really her point.
Right. I see what you're getting at. I just feel like you can experience something really intensely and it could still be subjective. Like, I don't think something's being a super intense experience means it's objective. And I also, like another element that we could bring in, and is this is the sort of Sam Harris approach. And I have some disagreements with Sam Harris on this, but he basically looks at everything through the lens of well-being, and he grounds his sense of morality in the idea of human well-being and flourishing, and he calls that objective. And my sense is that whenever you say good or bad, or you say better or worse, those words only mean something in reference to something else, right? So so say you have say you're someone asks you, like, a car and a horse, which one's better? Well, that question doesn't mean anything unless you know what you need the car for, or the horse for. If you want to go from A to B quickly, expeditiously, easily, you choose the car. If you want to participate in a Civil War reenactment, a horse. So
anachronistic. The guy shows up in a Volvo. Yeah, I get it.
Right. That doesn't work. If you've ever seen, those role playing people, no one's going down the hill at Gettysburg in a Volvo, right?
That's right.
So I feel, with morality, I sort of feel, I mean, at the moment, my perspective is that it's somewhat like that. Like, in order for you to say something is better than something else, you have to have a goal in mind. You have to have
a meaning of life, which is, just to go back to what you said earlier, when Sam Harris says well-being, well, he's presupposing that the purpose of life is human well-being. Well, on atheism, why is it human well-being and not roach well-being? Well-being.
I don't know. I don't know if Sam is necessarily saying the purpose of life. I think what he is saying is that at least on the issue of morality, provides a grounding for you to say better or worse.
Yeah, the problem is, though, without purpose, you can't say something's better or worse. Like, you can't say that your quarterback throwing a touchdown is better than your quarterback throwing an interception unless you know what the purpose of the game is.
Right. So that's exactly why I sort of disagree that adequately grounds objective morality. Yes, right. I'm with you there. Yeah.
Basically, what you're saying then is you don't think there's objective morality.
So, again, at the moment, moving target, I feel like I need to say that a lot. I feel like there's a difference between what's philosophically true and what's true in practice. So I think that
What do you mean by that?
Okay, sure. So I feel like philosophically, my suspicion is that morality is completely subjective. Well, let's just say this: if God is not real, then morality is totally subjective.
We all agree.
Yeah. And so there's enough of a subjective. There's enough overlap between and commonalities between subjective moral intuitions that we all hold, that overlap and that commonality provides sort of a practical objectivity. It's not truly objective.
It's either objective or it's not. There's no middle ground. It's either grounded in an object, God's nature, or it's subjective. It's just someone's opinion. I know you're a big fan of C.S. Lewis, so
I am. I love C.S.
So
Lewis.
when you read Mere Christianity or Abolition of Man, that's really his take on it. But anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I think that you're entirely right. It's either subjective or it's objective, and it can't be any sort of middle ground. And that's why I say philosophically, I think morality is subjective. But when there's enough commonality, so for instance, here's a commonality. It's pretty reasonable to assume that every human being, let's just leave out people that are suicidal for a second, if we can do that. Every human being values their own survival, and there are things that are true about what is more advantageous to their own survival than other things. So there are some objective truths about things that are good for you and bad for you, and and those things are things that we all more or less tend to agree on, at least certain things. So like, I prefer not to be murdered. I think most people prefer not to be murdered. So there's enough overlap and commonality on that issue that we can sort of look at that and go like, well, it's almost objectively true that it's immoral. Do you know what I mean? Like,
no, because it's not. It's either subjective or objective. It's not like you can be halfway objective and halfway subjective.
Okay, so
it still would be a subjective ethic.
Correct.
The problem is.
Let me rephrase that.
Okay, go ahead.
I think that it is technically subjective, but that when it's so shared by so many people, in practice, we can act as if it's objective on certain issues.
Yeah, except when Stalin comes along and says, you know what benefits me the most is for me to kill 20 million people and take their stuff.
Right,
then
and that's a very
work.
Big problem. Yeah.
And I know you've said you're not a fan of nihilism.
No, it's the worst.
Yeah.